Howdy, and welcome to everything that was in the novel that should have been in the movie for Star Wars The Force Awakens. And of course, this is all just my personal opinion. This is all things I believe would have made the movie better. And last but not least, spoiler alert. I've broken this down into a few categories. One of them being the majority, very large majority, and that being the things that should have been in the movie that were in the novel. Another category is things that you can only get from the novel, and that's going to be things like how a character was feeling, or maybe what their thought process was in a scene. And most of the time, it's in a scene that is in the movie, but again, you have to kind of assume or guess the emotion of the character as played by the actor, instead of being able to essentially just be told what they're thinking. So it's things that I think you should understand this and then go watch the movie again, especially that scene. And the last category, I actually only have one mention, and it's things I'm glad wasn't in the movie but is interesting to know. And that's the one I'm going to start with, because it's literally only one thing in that category. And that is that on page 258, Leia, when Rey, Chewbacca, and R2-D2 are about to leave the Resistance base to go find Luke Skywalker, Leia is fiddling with the seals on Rey's jacket. And she thinks to herself, it felt so right, so natural to be doing so. And I'm glad this isn't in the movie. It's just one of those little itty bitty sentimental things that didn't need to be there. So I'm glad it's not there. But at the same time, it's interesting to know, because I think that kind of hints at Rey's origin, and my belief is that she's a Solo, and more on that in a little bit. I'll go to now. That's really it. That in that, as far as things I'm glad weren't in the movie but are interesting to know. Everything else from here on out is going to be a little more, I don't want to say precise, but a little more interesting. The next category is things that you can only get from the novel. And these, again, are things that are how a person was feeling, or something they were thinking, or actually, in one case, a simple fact of, a matter-of-fact kind of thing that they thought about. The first one, I'm going in order of the novel here. First one's on page 198, and it's a description of Kylo Ren's face after he removes his helmet for the first time, and it's a description as thought of by Rey, and it describes him as sensitive and non-remarkable, except for, she can see something is behind his eyes, see that he's a powerful man, even though he's very unassuming in character. And I just think that that plays to Adam Driver's character, because he does play that, sensitive character, especially in that scene. Let's see, what else do I got? Okay, this one's page 238, and this one, and I'll kind of reference this when I get to another point in my other category, and this is a description of Starkiller Base's weapon charging, and it essentially just describes something that I feel should have been in the movie, but again, this isn't someone saying, this isn't really, I guess it's a scene, but it's just not really. It wouldn't be necessary if they had properly explained it. Shafts of an intense purple light were flowing there, a curtain of energy being drawn down by the weapon's collector. That's just a description of the weapon charging, and of course, in the book, the weapon does something other than drain the power of the sun. So I'll come back to that one. But I have it marked as things you can only get from the novel. And the only reason I did that is because since the movie did it a different way, with taking the power of the sun instead of dark energy, using the sun to channel dark energy, but not draining the sun, more pulling dark energy out of the universe. you can't get, you won't see that in the movie, so you can only get that description from the book. I'm gonna skip one because it's got a talking point I've added onto it. But I'll come back to it. Page 245 in the novel. Kylo Ren kills Han Solo on the bridge in the oscillator on Starkiller Base. And in his mind, he thought it would make him stronger. He thought he was doing it to get rid of the light side within him. He was doing it to be able to not have this turmoil inside of him. And he thought that killing Han Solo would do this. It would be the answer. But it says in the book, it says, Kylo Ren realizes that killing Han Solo actually made him feel weaker instead of stronger. And I don't like that because I want Kylo Ren to be solely dark side. I want him to be completely non-redeemable. I don't want people to have something even more to complain about as far as just a villain of Star Wars. But I don't. I want him to be the dark side version of his grandfather. I want him to be a dark side Darth Vader. Darth Vader was, yes, of course, dark side, but he redeemed himself at the end. And in his heart, he was always a good guy. And I don't want Kylo Ren to be that. I want Kylo Ren to be a bad guy at heart. Page 250. It explains what most of us assumed when we saw the movie, and that is that Kylo Ren, when lightsaber dueling with Finn, is toying with him. He's not even trying. He's indulging himself. He's having fun with the duel, but he underestimates Finn, and then he gets grazed, and then he essentially was like, okay. And in the book, it literally, this is the quote, it says, "It was time for play to end." That's a thought that Kylo Ren has. And then 3 strokes later, Finn is laying on the ground. Of course, in the book, he has a gash across his chest and not across his back, but I think it was done nicely in the movie, so I wouldn't necessarily change that. But I wanted to, I like that because it expressed that Kylo Ren was playing with Finn, and we need to not take that aspect of the fight seriously, and just understand that he was just messing with Finn. He never took him seriously. Yeah, so I believe that is it. Oh, wait, let me go back to that description I want to talk about. Okay, this one's on page 243. Like I said, I went out of chronological order because I might talk a bit on this one. And this is a quote from the movie. And this is when Han first gets on the bridge to see his son face to face, and Kylo Ren removes his helmet, and so his father can see his face. And I wanted to say this because it brings up an interesting point. It says, and this is a thought Han Solo has. He says, for the first time, Han saw the face of his son as a grown man. And it gives a hint to how long it's been since Ben Solo became Kylo Ren. And I added this note on there. If Kylo Ren is 29 years old, which is that's his age in The Force Awakens. He was born 0 to 1 years, ABY, after the Battle of Yavin. No, I'm sorry, after the Battle of Endor. And this is, of course, 30 years after the Battle of Endor, after Return of the Jedi. So he's about 29 years old. And Rey is 19 years old, another known fact. She's 19. That means, and again, it says Han that has not seen the face of his adult son. So that means Kylo could have left when he was anywhere from the age of, 10. It would have to be 10, and I'll explain why. If Kylo Ren left when he was 10, returned when he was 15 to 18 to destroy the Jedi under the leadership of Snoke, that means Rey could be a Solo, but still have been hidden on Jakku by her parents, Luke, the Resistance, without Kylo Ren really knowing she exists. And of course, that would also fit that timeline where she seems between maybe the years of 5 and 8, 8 being a very high stretch. But again, if Kylo Ren left when he was 10, never knew that his mother was pregnant, or God forbid, Leia sent him away because she was pregnant, sent him away to be trained by Luke, obviously. And then Han, So he could have trained with Luke for a few years, so maybe up to like 12, 13. Had no communication with his family as far as Han and Leia. Then disappeared for 2 or 3 years, and then come back and helped. Because it's not like Kylo Ren walked into the base and killed every single Jedi on his own. No, he probably came back with a full squadron and attacked the Jedi where they were at. But all that timeline fits as far as Kylo and Rey being brother and sister. Again, if it's true Han hadn't seen his son as an adult, then it's not like, Kylo Ren was a Jedi Knight and then turned or something. He was still fairly young at the latest, as a grown man. That means 14, 15 maybe. That's what I take that as. Is maybe that was the oldest that he had seen his son's face. So that's just my idea. That's kind of what I think is possible. So now I'm going to go to the bulk of the video, and it's essentially going to be everything that was in the novel that should have been in the movie. And these are things that I personally think would have made the movie better. I think it would have filled a few plot holes in a few situations, or what I call convenient holes, which is, and it happened twice in this movie, where a character just kind of pops up and we're not really supposed to question how or why he popped up. Okay, the first one is an interesting one. And it's on page 139, and it says Snoke. It's when Snoke is talking to Kylo Ren and General Hux for the first time, and then General Hux has left the room. And it's a whole separate conversation than the one you see in the movie, because the one you see in the movie is also in the novel, but then Snoke brings up another topic to Kylo Ren. And Snoke reminds Kylo Ren that what brought down the Empire was Darth Vader showing sentiment towards Luke Skywalker, essentially saying Darth Vader allowed his emotions to control his actions, and he decided to kill the Emperor instead of kill his son or allow his son to die. And Snoke essentially says the historians have it all wrong. It wasn't valiancy, it wasn't honor, it wasn't truth, it wasn't the rebellion that brought down the Empire. It was Darth Vader's weakness in allowing his emotions to make that choice for him. And I find that interesting because while we dictate Darth Vader's choice in the light side to kill the Emperor instead of Luke, Snoke manipulates that situation into a lesson for Kylo, essentially telling him he let his emotions get him. And of course, it's interesting because both Jedi and Sith are pretty against emotion. I get the Sith use their anger, but the Sith don't like having their emotions, they don't lose control of their emotions. They're supposed to control them. That's the Sith way. They don't lose control of anything. And then the Jedi, it's in the Jedi Code to state there is no emotion, there is peace. So it's kind of interesting that they do blame the fall of the Emperor in one of the most necessary and drastic moves in the entire Star Wars universe. They blame it on an emotional choice. I find that interesting, and I think it would have just, it might not have even added anything to the movie, but I would have liked to have seen it. Okay, this one's very important. It fills one of those plot hole character holes I was talking about. Pages 140 all the way to 147 are a literal description of how Poe Dameron gets off of Jakku. Now, it doesn't necessarily break down all, like the shuttle and everything, but it's from the time... Sorry, it's a little late. It's from the time that Poe wakes up on Jakku to the time that he meets a scavenger, and he hops a ride to one of the nearest outposts. And they missed out also on a chance for an action scene. There was a part in there where he does some fancy piloting, and I think it would have been nice just to have that as well. Moving on. Okay, this was one of my favorite reads of the book, because Chewbacca, I do love Chewbacca as a character. Page 166. Actually, that's why I have two of him up there. Page 166. Unkar Plutt gets his arm torn off by Chewbacca. So essentially what happens is on Takanada, is that Takanada? I believe so. Maz Kanata's palace. I think that's Takanada. Anyways, at Maz Kanata's palace, when Rey and Finn depart, when Finn leaves with the two guys to go to the Outer Rim, and Rey turns back to walk to the table. Of course, in the movie, that's when she has her sort of daydream, pull her away kind of thing. But in the book, what happened is she turns around and she starts trying to go back to the table.
Bullshit.
And she starts trying to go back to the table, and Unkar Plutt has shown up, and he's used the old Imperial tracker that was on the Millennium Falcon from Episode 5. So, 31 years ago. He tapped into that, and he was able to track the Millennium Falcon down to Takanada. I hope I'm saying that planet right, or at least saying the right planet. Anyways, and so he's very threatening to her, and snatches her blaster out of her hand, and so he goes, essentially, he's gonna mess with her, and all of a sudden Chewbacca shows up. Now, if you remember, Chewbacca was left behind on the Millennium Falcon to check it out, and of course he was still wounded. Now, in this, he's finished his checkup, so he goes to meet Han and the others at the palace. And Chewbacca shows up right in time to essentially save Rey from being taken by Unkar Plutt. And Unkar Plutt looks at Chewbacca and is like, and sees the wounded shoulder, and he goes, half a Wookiee is no competition for me. There's no trouble for me. So he goes to strike at Chewbacca, and Chewbacca essentially catches his arm and then rips it off, because how many times have we heard about Wookiees ripping people's arms off and we've never gotten a chance to see it? Now, I understand kind of why they might not have had this, because then they still might not have been able to keep this movie PG-13, is what I believe it's rated. Yeah, PG-13. They wouldn't have been able to keep a PG-13. And the reason I say that is because the blood. And I mean, they probably still could have gotten away with it and still in PG-13, and I think it just would have been a nice, you just saw Chewbacca rip someone's arm off. How BA is that? And it fills another character hole about how come Chewbacca is supposedly left with the Millennium Falcon, and then all of a sudden, when the weapon is fired, and then Finn, Han, Chewie, and Finn, Han, and Chewie are down in the basement of Maz Kanata's palace. When Maz Kanata gives Finn the lightsaber, why is Chewbacca suddenly there? Well, that's why, because he finished his checkup, he came into the bar, he ripped Unkar Plutt's arm off, and then he goes back to the table and sits down. And then that's when Rey has her little daydream that pulls her down to Luke Skywalker's lightsaber. I'm sorry, her lightsaber. What? Alright, page 176. Leia feels all the deaths of the Hosnian system in the Force. Now, the reason I would have liked this, because it had been just a hair more character development for Leia. It would have told us that, hey, she has a connection through the Force as well. And it's strong enough to at least feel all those deaths. Now, yes, she's not a trained Jedi or anything, but it's still strong enough for her. Goodness gracious. But it's still strong enough for her to feel this. Now, another thing, I do understand why they might not have added this, and that is because it would have been the first time we saw Leia, and it would have been a kind of a brief reaction thing, and so I think they wanted the big unveil where she lands on Takanada after the Resistance fins off the First Order, and then you see her walking out of the shuttle. I think they did it good, but I don't know. I wish that you could have seen, in a way, how she is connected to the Force. Because, she is still Luke Skywalker's twin brother. And later you see her react to Han, but the thing is, Han was her husband at one point, and a very close person to her, so she's gonna feel that one, even if she's just Force sensitive. But I think showing that she felt all the deaths in the Hosnian system would have kind of just amped up her Force abilities in the character itself. Page 186. Maz talks with Finn after Rey is captured. Now, I like this for two reasons. One, it proves that Maz survived the First Order attack on the palace, because again, you don't see her afterwards, so you don't really have proof that she's alive. You have no proof that she's dead. And Star Wars isn't really the kind of movie to kill a character off screen. But you still, again, you have confirmation that she's alive. And it sort of explains why Finn suddenly changes his MO, because up until that point he's trying to escape, he's trying to run away. And then all of a sudden Rey's gone and he wants to fight for Rey. Now he's a warrior. And that's exactly what happens is Maz tells Finn that he no longer has the look of someone who wants to run in his eyes. He now has the look of a warrior in his eyes. And again, I just think that would have explained his MO for the rest of the movie as a warrior, as a fighter. Page 191. Finn proclaims that Starkiller Base is the main base of the First Order. Now, this might have been in the movie. It might have been like, yeah, this is their home base or their main base. But I just think it would have been made, I think it should have been made a little more blatant. And the only reason I say that is because there's a lot of people that think the First Order is like Empire-sized, and they're not. They're not even Republic-sized. The Republic didn't think the First Order was worth fighting. That's why the Resistance is doing it, not the Republic. And of course, nobody knew they had Starkiller Base. But yeah, the First Order actually isn't super huge. They're big, but they're not super huge. Their main enemy is the Resistance, and the Resistance, I mean, we saw how big they were. Yeah, I just think that should have been made a little more obvious. Okay, this is going to be a long one because I have to just read it because it's sort of sciencey. It's on page 203, and it's Finn explains that Starkiller Base, and then here's the quote, uses the power of the sun to attract and send dark energy to a containment unit at the core of the planet, where it is held and built up inside that containment unit until the weapon is ready to fire. Got a low battery signal. General Hux told us it's the most powerful weapon ever built. He said that it can reach halfway across the galaxy and in real time. Because it doesn't reach across the galaxy, it reaches through it. And this is just how it should have been explained in the movie. The movie shouldn't have drained the power of the sun. The movie should have pulled the dark energy. Respect Star Wars fans enough to be a little sciencey with it, and just have them talk about it, and then let the geeks break it down for us normal people later. And I don't mean that like I'm a better person. I mean I'm not as technically intelligent about this kind of thing to really understand this, but I would have accepted it at face value. Okay, they're pulling dark energy. That's fine. I don't care. If I have to accept you're draining the power of the sun, then I can easily accept dark energy. And then you wouldn't create a giant plot hole with the idea that, okay, now you have no sun, so how did your planet survive? Can your planet move? And that's why I move on to the next one, page 204, 205. Poe explains that this is their only shot to disable/destroy Starkiller Base, because once the First Order knows that the Resistance knows where the base is at, they will have it protected at all times. And that and this is something Poe said in the little meeting at the hologram, where they're all talking about this is Starkiller Base, this is what it does, blah blah blah. And Poe should have said this, because that would ixnay any idea that the planet can move. The planet cannot move. The planet is it's a planet, and they built a weapon into it. They didn't put a hyperdrive engine on it or anything like that. And again, you couldn't have that line and then have them drain the power of the sun, because then it's a one-off weapon. Because you're not going to tell me that the planet or the sun recharges. But again, just go with the dark energy. Page 205. Admiral Statura explains that destroying the oscillator while the weapon is fully loaded would cause the energy to release, or would cause the weapon to release the energy, not in a straight line, but throughout the planet's core. This should have been stated, because even in the movie, Starkiller Base becomes a binary planet. It doesn't destroy like Alderaan did, just blow up. It becomes a binary planet, and that's exactly what happened to the Hosnian system. They didn't blow up. They didn't get destroyed. They became binary planets, and I don't think that the movie highlighted that enough. Okay, page 208. Snoke commands General Hux to destroy the entire Lenian system, and Hux doesn't want to. He tries to tell them that, hey, we know what planet they're on. We're trying to pinpoint their exact location. It might take a few hours, but there are 2 other inhabited planets in the Hosnian system that we can use for slave labor or other things like that. And Snoke overrules them, obviously, and it's just like, no, destroy the Elenium system because we've already given them too much time for them to get the plans off planet or sent to someone else to go and find Luke Skywalker, and we cannot allow them to find Luke Skywalker. And I like this because that kind of tells me that Snoke is a little afraid of Luke Skywalker. But does it mean that Luke's more powerful than Snoke? Which would also tie back to when Han tells Kylo he's just using you for your power. Does Snoke not have any power? I really find that hard to believe. But it'll be interesting to see come episodes 8 and 9 who Snoke really is and what his background is. Page 229, 230. Kylo and a squad of stormtroopers find and explore the crashed Millennium Falcon. This explains why Kylo Ren was so near the oscillator to essentially, eventually kill Han Solo. And you could say he was attracted by the power of the Force, but if he was attracted by the power of the Force to a certain spot in the planet, a certain building in the planet, how come did he not then send Han Solo 50 feet behind him, like directly? And in this one, he senses Han's presence on the planet, but he can't track him. He can't just track him to the Force. He doesn't know his exact location. And we saw Darth Vader in Episode 4 know the exact location of Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I think that would also kind of, to people paying attention, show Kylo Ren's lack of discipline within the Force because he couldn't pinpoint Han Solo, his own father, to a specific location. And that kind of I won't say bugged me, but that always caught my attention in the movie where it's like, why don't you sense Han Solo right behind you if you somehow sensed him at the oscillator? Yeah. That's a character convenience thing. Han, Chewie, Finn, and Rey use stolen snow. I have troopers in here, but that's wrong. Use stolen snow speeders to traverse the land, a good chunk of it, between where they free her or the shield control area, all the way to the oscillator. Now, in the movie, there's a split second where you probably do see the snow speeder behind Finn and Rey. It's the scene where Rey is wearing Finn's jacket, she rips out the piece, and the doors open for Han and Chewie to go into the oscillator. But they also miss an opportunity for an action scene, because there's another scene where Rey is piloting the snow speeder and Finn shoots a stormtrooper on a snow speeder off of the snow speeder. And again, I just think they missed opportunity for an action scene that might have been filmed, because like I said, I'm pretty sure you can see the snow speeder in the background behind them when that door opens for a split second. Alright, Luke's lightsaber flies past Kylo Ren and into Rey's hand. Now in the movie, that's it. Nothing is said. In the book, Kylo Ren looks at Rey and says, "It is you." Does Kylo Ren know who Rey is? Nobody else seems to say anything. Rey sure as hell doesn't know. Does Kylo Ren know who Rey is? Has he suspected it this whole time? He knows that she's stronger in the Force than she knows. He even says it in the movie. But the way and even in the book, the word is italicized. So it's meant to be like, it is you, not it is you. No, it is you. Like, I know who you are, or I thought I knew who you were, and you just confirmed it for me. It's like, oh. Page 253. Kylo Ren is disarmed. His lightsaber is not destroyed, and by disarmed I don't mean his hand got cut off. I mean lightsaber gone. And briefly utilizes the Force to fend off Rey's lightsaber strikes. I just think that this would have been a 2-3 second add-on. That would have been cool. It would have been cool to see Kylo Ren, last essence of Force ability as he's getting chopped down by Rey, essentially, to kind of have that lightsaber come down him, like use his hand / Force to deflect it, and use a little extra Force ability in the fight. I think it would have been a cool action addition to an already really good scene. 253. Hux shows up and helps Ren escape the spaceport. Now he finds Kylo Ren via a homing device in Kylo Ren's belt. built in, obviously, because he doesn't have any obvious attachments other than the lightsaber in the front buckle. But essentially, Hux shows up in a shuttle with some stormtroopers. Stormtroopers come out, grab Kylo Ren, put him on the shuttle, and they escape Starkiller Base before it explodes. And that wasn't shown in the movie. I guess it wasn't necessary, but it would have answered all questions as to did they get off the plane and or how. And honestly, that's it. I had one other in here, but now that the more I think about it, I think it's not very necessary, and that is a character named Corsella is introduced by Leia, and she is the young black woman that you see walk to the edge of the balcony, essentially, at the top of the Senate building, or at the steps of the Senate building, as the Hosnian system is being destroyed. And I just think that it would be nice to know her name. But again, this would have been before we saw Leia show up on Takanada, so I understand that you don't want to introduce Leia while introducing a character that you're going to kill off in 40 minutes. So I told y'all because I didn't want to leave y'all in the dark, but at the same time, I don't think it was really necessary. So that was really my list of things that were in the novel that should have been in the book, or I'm sorry, in the novel that should have been in the film, things that you can only get from the novel as far as emotions or thoughts, and then that last, or I should say the first part was shouldn't have been in the film, wasn't in the film, but it's interesting to think about. So I hope y'all enjoyed this. I hope you made it through the whole video. If you did, I appreciate it. If you didn't, I completely understand. I probably wouldn't watch a 30-minute video of myself talking either. That's why I put my back to my Black Series wall, so that y'all could enjoy that display. Other than that, y'all have a good day, and may the Force be with you.